The road was nearly deserted that night. A few cars passed by, their headlights reflecting off the damp pavement. Streetlights flickered, casting elongated shadows over the stretch of highway outside of Richmond, Virginia. It was late, just past 11 p.m., the kind of hour when most people were eager to get home. Major Olivia Bennett had been driving for nearly 2 hours, her fingers tapping lightly against the steering wheel as she hummed along to the soft rhythm of an old jazz tune playing through the speakers. Dressed in a simple navy sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back into a neat bun, she didn't think she stood out. Then she saw the flashing lights in her rearview mirror, red and blue, rapidly approaching. Her stomach clenched, not out of fear, but from exhaustion. She signaled, changed lanes, and eased her car onto the shoulder. Placing the vehicle in park, she took a slow breath and kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. Her years in the military had taught her the protocol. A white patrol car stopped just behind her, and the officer took his time getting out. When he finally did, he moved with the confidence of someone who expected compliance. Heavy boots scuffing against the asphalt, one hand resting on his belt, the other holding a flashlight that flicked on as he approached. She turned her head slightly, watching him through the side mirror. The name on his badge caught the light. Officer Daniels. "License and registration," he said flatly, without a greeting or explanation. Olivia met his eyes in the mirror, then reached slowly into the glove compartment to retrieve her documents. "Was I speeding, officer?" she asked, her voice steady. Daniels didn't answer immediately. He took the papers from her hand, holding them just out of reach as he gave her car a once-over. "Tail lights out," he finally said. She frowned. "That can't be right." Daniels looked at her directly. "Are you arguing with me?" A beat of silence passed. Olivia could sense the shift in the air, that unspoken moment where power met resistance, and one side expected the other to yield. She'd seen it before in briefings on bases overseas and in training exercises designed to prepare soldiers for the world beyond the military. She knew better than to push, but she also knew her rights. "I'm just saying," she replied calmly, "my tail lights were checked a few weeks ago, but if there's an issue, I can get it fixed." "Step out of the car," Daniels interrupted, as if he hadn't heard a word. Olivia exhaled slowly, glancing toward the traffic ahead. No witnesses. She tapped her fingers against the steering wheel once, then reached for the door handle. "Mind telling me why?" she asked. Daniels tilted his head, smirking. "Because I said so." She let that hang in the air for a moment, then unbuckled her seatbelt and pushed the door open. The night air was cooler than she expected. She stepped onto the pavement, her posture relaxed but measured. She wasn't looking for a confrontation, but she wouldn't be intimidated either. Daniels took a step back, scanning her. She could feel him assessing her, deciding how much he could get away with. "Turn around," hands on the car. This time, she hesitated. "For what reason?" Daniel stepped closer, his smirk fading. "Are you resisting?" Olivia held her ground. "No, I'm asking a question." A flicker of something crossed his face. Annoyance, amusement, maybe both. Then, without warning, he reached for his radio. "We've got a non-compliant driver here," he muttered into the speaker. Then, louder, "Turn around!" Her pulse quickened, but her expression remained neutral. "Officer, I need you to understand something," she said, her voice low but firm. "I know exactly what I'm allowed to do, and I know exactly what you can't do." Daniels didn't appreciate that. His jaw tensed. "You're under arrest," he snapped, reaching for her wrist. Olivia moved before he could grab her, stepping back just enough to avoid his grip. "Under arrest for what?" Daniels pulled out his cuffs. "For obstructing an officer." She exhaled sharply through her nose. So that was his game. Her military training kicked in, heartbeat steady, breathing even. She knew she had two choices: comply and fight this later, or push back and risk escalation. She wasn't about to become another statistic. With slow, deliberate movements, she turned, placing her hands on the roof of her car. The metal was cool against her palms. Daniels wasted no time yanking her arms behind her back, tightening the cuffs far too much before shoving her toward the patrol car. "You don't know what you're doing," she murmured. Daniels chuckled, shoving her into the back seat. "Lady, I know exactly what I'm doing." But he didn't, not even close. The hard plastic seat of the patrol car dug into her back. Olivia sat still, wrists burning against the cuffs, her breath measured. The door slammed shut behind her, sealing her in. Outside, Daniels strutted back to his vehicle, muttering something into his radio. She glanced at the partition separating her from the front seat. The faint reflection of her face stared back. Calm, composed. But beneath that, something simmered. She had been through combat drills, high-stakes operations, and interrogations in foreign territories. But this was different. This was a man with a badge, drunk on power, convinced he was untouchable. A few minutes passed. Then 5, then 10. She shifted her hands slightly, testing the cuffs. Too tight. He had done it on purpose. The driver's side door swung open, and Daniel slid in, whistling. "Well, well," he muttered, pulling his seatbelt across his chest. "Let's take a little ride." She didn't respond. He threw the car into gear, pulling off the shoulder and back onto the road. The patrol car lurched forward, the overhead lights still flashing. She could see the reflection of the red and blue in the side mirrors, staining the road behind them. "You know," Daniel said after a moment, "most people just keep their mouths shut when I tell them to step out." Olivia exhaled sharply through her nose. "And most officers don't arrest people for questioning a traffic stop." Daniels laughed, shaking his head. "Lady, you must really think you're somebody." She looked at him through the glass. "I don't think. I know." It made him pause, just for a second. His knuckles flexed around the wheel, a flicker of irritation breaking through his smug exterior. But he covered it up quickly. "You military?" he asked, his tone suddenly shifting. She didn't answer. "Yeah, I figured," he went on. "You got that attitude, that above-the-law type," he smirked. "Bet you thought I'd back off if you threw that around, huh?" Still, she stayed silent. Daniels clicked his tongue. "Shame," he mused, shaking his head. "If you'd just kept your mouth shut, we could have avoided all this." Her jaw tightened. The audacity of it. As if his actions were somehow her fault. The station came into view up ahead. A squat gray brick building just off the main road. The parking lot was mostly empty. Late-night processing was slow, and for now, it looked like she was the only guest. Daniels pulled into a reserved spot near the entrance, killed the engine, and turned to look at her through the partition. "Gotta say," he murmured, "I do love when they make it easy." Before she could respond, he was out of the car, slamming the door behind him. A second later, her door swung open. "Let's go," he ordered. Olivia twisted her wrists slightly as she stepped out. The cuffs bit into her skin. He hadn't loosened them at all. She kept her head high as he led her inside, past a bored-looking desk sergeant and into processing. The holding area smelled like old coffee and sweat. A metal bench lined the far wall, a steel door leading to the cells just beyond it. Daniels uncuffed her just long enough to push her through booking. Fingerprints, mugshot, the whole routine. The officers behind the desk barely looked up, just going through the motions. She had seen this kind of indifference before. It was the kind that let bad men like Daniels thrive. When it was over, he grabbed her wrist again, leading her toward the cells. "You think you're smart, huh?" he muttered under his breath. She glanced sideways. "I don't have to think." His grip tightened. She knew that got under his skin. "Enjoy your stay," Daniels sneered, shoving her toward the cell. Olivia caught herself before she stumbled. She turned, watching as the metal bars slid shut between them. Daniels smirked from the other side, tapping the bars lightly with his fingers before walking away. The lock clicked into place. She took a slow breath, then sank onto the bench. The chill of the metal pressed through her jeans, grounding her. One night. That's all it would take. Because Daniels had no idea who he had just messed with. And the metal bench was cold, hard, unforgiving. Olivia shifted slightly, rolling her shoulders to ease the stiffness creeping in. The cell wasn't much, just 4 walls, a single flickering light, and the faint smell of old sweat and disinfectant. She had spent nights in far worse conditions, in places where the threat wasn't just discomfort but real danger. This was nothing. But that didn't mean she wasn't angry. Through the bars, she could hear the faint murmur of officers talking at the front desk, the occasional shuffle of paperwork, the clatter of a coffee cup against a desk. She exhaled, slow and steady. Control the breathing, control the mind. Basic training drilled into her long before she even stepped foot into the field. Then, heavy footsteps. Daniel's. She knew it was him before he even came into view. His stride had that same arrogant rhythm, like a man who thought he was untouchable. He appeared in front of the cell a second later, arms crossed over his chest, that same smirk plastered on his face. "Young feet?" She didn't answer. He tilted his head, stepping closer to the bars. "You know, if you just played along, you wouldn't be in here right now." She let a slow smile curl at the edges of her lips. "Oh, I'm exactly where I need to be." Daniels' smirk faltered for just